Just going. All right, Jim, over to you.
Thanks. So I started, this is what we did less than a year ago. And it really was to answer what I call the ultimate questions as the world falls apart around us. What did you do to fight climate change? And the name, I had a venture capitalist who told me, he heard the name, and he said, let me give you some advice right now, change the name. It's an awful name, but what I want to be able to do is to be able to respond to that question when my grandson or my granddaughter asked me, what did you do to try to solve this? And it's not, this is what I'm going to do. It's not, this is what I did. It's what we did, because we have to do this in solidarity. And thank you, Nan and 350 Bay Area for this collaboration. I really appreciate it. So a key point here is that we just have to stop burning fossil fuels. The Department of Defense has called climate change a threat multiplier. If we think about how quickly the Earth is heating, and we look in terms of Hiroshima bomb equivalents, it's the equivalent of 400,000 explosions a year is heating up our oceans and our atmosphere. And a number of scientists have said the most likely thing that's going to happen is global collapse. You know, not to paint a really dark picture here, but there's 7.5 billion people on the planet. And some people are saying if we get to 4 degrees centigrade, the globe can only handle less than 1 billion. So what's going to happen to those other 6.5 billion people? It's not going to be pretty. We're in a real crisis here. The fossil fuel industry has no incentive to stop. There's no penalty. They're, I think, the only industry I know that can spew their garbage out and make the other people pay for it. And then sacrifice zones, I think, are really crucial. 75% and 100% of all the polluting facilities in Houston are in black areas. Standing Rock, I'll come to that in a second. And a study just came out. Almost 9 million people die every year from fossil fuel pollution. It's not, you know, there's not a tag on their body bag saying that, but the illnesses they get, this is an incredibly awful situation. I grew up in North Dakota, not near Standing Rock, but it really bothers me that the Dakota Access Pipeline was rerouted. Initially, it was routed near Bismarck, which is the capital city and is almost all white people. And they didn't have to demonstrate. They didn't have to get water shot into their face the way the Standing Rock people, water protectors, did. They rerouted it so it went right under the water supply for Standing Rock Reservation. Any comments or questions so far? Keep rolling. Okay, so banks are key. And if we look around at where we have leverage, there's a whole bunch of things that we can't get to. I really admire the valve turners, the 4 or 5 people who went into a pipeline area and turned the valves to stop the oil from coming. Most of us can't do that, and probably nobody can do it now after that. But there are places where we're going to have leverage. And you can't build pipelines without financing. And the difference between the banks and the fossil fuel industry, 100% of the fossil fuel industry is about burning fossil fuels, destroying our planet. Only about 7.5% of banks lend to for fossil fuel. So they can do something else. They could lend for solar. They could make more car loans, electric vehicle loans. It won't destroy them. The battle with the fossil fuel industry is going to be nasty. They're not going to just go along. They're not going to be reasonable because there's so much money involved. The worst climate bad banks in the U.S., and we rely on Rainforest Action Network's annual report. Number 1 is Chase. Number 1 means worst. Wells Fargo is second. Citibank is third. Bank of America and Union Bank. These are the worst, and you can look it up and see, you know, how many billions of dollars these banks are using to finance. So here's a question for you. Sandy and I are both there. Why are these people happy? Anybody got an idea? Well, it's kind of a setup. They're happy because they're moving their money from a climate bad bank. This is one of our cohorts, people who in most cases wanted to move their money out of these bad banks for a long time, but haven't done it. I organized I call them visitations to Wells Fargo branches, where we would go inside the branch and sing songs and make it really hard for them to do their business. And we still had our money in Wells Fargo. We hadn't divested. It's kind of complicated. So part of it is that banks are sticky. It's complicated to get untangled. Sometimes there's security questions. I love the story I'm about to tell you, partly because it's a great story and partly because I persevered. But my paycheck was being direct deposited to Wells Fargo. So if I'm going to get out of Wells Fargo, I got to fix that. So Insperity is the HR company that Positive Coaching Alliance works with. And I figured out how to get into my Insperity account. And then it asked me some security questions. It said, where did you meet your spouse? And who is your favorite teacher? So I said, St. Paul, Minnesota, and Polly Ames. And they said, I'm sorry, those are not the right answers. Now, obviously, I had set up those security questions, but I did something different. And so now this is the point at which I would have said, I don't have time for this. I'll come back to it later. And then I would not have come back later. But this was 10 o'clock on Friday morning. We had a cohort meeting at noon that day. And I had said the week before that I would have done this by that noon. So I stuck with it. And by 12 o'clock in our cohort meeting, I was able to say, yes, I got my direct deposit changed to our credit union. And action for the climate is empowering. They're sticky, yes. But when going back to that picture of all those happy people, people were just ecstatic. Like I've felt bad about this for so long, and you can do it by your own. But if you do it together, let me ask, what do you think the real superpower is? Any guesses? Sandy, you can't answer because, hi, Allison, welcome. Nan, do you know what the real superpower is?
Doing it together?
Yes, that's exactly right. Solidarity. If we do this individually, we can feel good about it. If we do it together, lots and lots of people, we can have an impact. And here's a link to Allison. We are filming this, right, Nan?
Yes.
So you'll be able to go back and get this link for our Move Your Money cohort to talk about. We do it for 6 weeks. It's an hour a week, and then people really support each other. And I've got this issue or that issue. How do I do these things? And it really makes it easier. Let me stop for a second and see if there are any questions on anything I've said so far.
I've got a question, Jim.
Yep.
Something that I just realized, something that's come up before when I've been trying to convince my friends to do the same, is there's some information out there about banks being sticky, especially regarding credit cards, that when you cancel your credit card, it affects your credit score. Have you heard about this or know anything about that?
Yes, absolutely. Let me talk about checking and savings accounts, and then we'll go into credit cards. Can we do that, Nan?
Okay, yeah, great. Okay, cool. I'm glad we're gonna address.
So
Thank you.
if we divest, here are some of the key actions. And when you do this in a cohort with us, again, you can do it by yourself. StopTheMoneyPipeline.org has a list of the steps. But when you do it together, first of all, where are you going to put your money? If you're in Wells Fargo or Chase, where are you going to go with it? Well, first of all, credit unions are great, and there's a link where you can check, you can find a credit card. You can put your zip code in and find credit unions in your area. There are also some banks like Aspiration and Amalgamated and Beneficial State Bank that specifically don't do this kind of stuff. And then there are places where, and we help people with this during the cohort. There are places where you can find banks, community banks that are focused on community development, Black owned, all kinds of things like that. Then what services do you need? This is important. Like, is it important to you that you have an ATM nearby? Well, maybe 10 years ago that would have been a problem, but now almost all of the credit unions are linked together in ATMs. And we had a Wells Fargo, there is a Wells Fargo ATM at the place where we do most of our grocery shopping. And it was so convenient, but turns out less than a block away, there's a credit union, and we can tap into the 2 credit unions that we're in without a charge. So, but do you need a safety deposit box? Do you need a credit card? Not all credit unions offer all of these things. Do you need to refinance a loan? So, and then it's really crucial to identify, one of the reasons it's so sticky is because of all these auto pays and auto deductions. It's really great to have auto pays where, the water bill every month, it just gets paid right out of your bank account. But doing those things is part of the stickiness. So you need to go through and identify all the auto pays, all the auto deductions so you can move them. And then keep your old accounts, savings and credit, savings and checking accounts until you're confident that you've moved everything. And then you need to ask the bank officially to close it. And you may need to go in. With Wells Fargo, I had to go in and actually sign something, which is actually okay because it gave me a chance to talk to the branch manager. If you go into the bank now, there aren't many people in there. And I was talking to the person waiting on me, and I said, could I talk to the branch manager? And she came right up, and I told her about what we're doing, and she said she will escalate it. So all the conversations we have, each individual one doesn't seem like that much, but the more it happens. And when we were demonstrating in Wells Fargo Bank lobbies, somebody would be coming out of the bank, or an employee would be coming into the bank to go to work, and they would give us like a high five. They don't want to work for a climate bad bank either. So and then we want to amplify this. So take a selfie of yourself with, well, I'll show you one. Chase, the worst climate bad bank, no longer my bank. And we post these on our website and on social media. So I'll keep going on credit cards, and then we can come back and ask about both these. Is that okay? Great. Silence is yes, I guess. So credit cards are a little different. First of all, get a new card first and ask for a larger credit limit. If you have $10,000 credit limit, when you go to a credit union or a new bank, ask them for 15 or 20 or 25. They're going to give you, they've got a formula, they'll give you what they give you, but you can ask for more. And at least as large, there's no reason they should be giving you less credit limit than what you got on the old card. Now, the impact on your credit score is interesting and complicated. Part of it is how long have you had the credit cards that you've had? So we had Chase for, Sandy, how long? 30 years? I don't know, a long, long time. And we were getting air miles for it, and so it was all great. Well, when we quit our Chase card, we replaced it with a Stanford Federal Credit Union card, but our credit card, I have to say, I think our credit rating took a dip because I didn't look at it before. It's still really good, but it should have been above 800, I think, and it wasn't anymore. If you're asking for a big loan, we have some friends who they're about to go into a co-housing thing with a whole bunch of other people, and they need a big loan. And so they're going to get that big loan before they, the fact that they've got like 5 or 6 or 7 credit cards is good for their credit score. And one aspect of your credit score is how much of your credit do you use? It's kind of weird. If you get $25,000 credit limit and you're using $24,000, they actually hold that against you. If you have a $25,000 credit limit and you use only 5 of it, that adds